honestly, we might get some juicy lines. So again, only you guys are going to get access to it. I'm probably going to be all over Pennington by KO in round 4 and 5, and I think we're going to get astronomical numbers. Neither of these fighters have ever won by KO, but I think it's coming. And welcome to Fighting Stats, the ultimate channel for MMA fans who love statistics and betting breakdowns. I'm your host, Art C, and I'm here to get you ready for the upcoming UFC fights. In this series, I'll be watching tape and providing my real-time analysis on how I think the fights are going to go. I'll be watching for fighters' strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and overall strategies, pairing that with Fighting Stats' exclusive UFC stats not available anywhere else to give you a prediction on how I think the fights are going to go and ultimately who's going to win. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Fighting Stats. Welcome back to Fighting Stats. I'm your host, Art C, and today we are breaking down the co-main event of UFC 297. Raquel Rocky Pennington takes on Mayra Beuno Silva for the vacant Bantamweight Women's Championship fight. This is the Amanda Nunes. She vacated the title, so Raquel Pennington and Mayra Beuno Silva are fighting for the belt. This is at UFC 297 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We are breaking it down. Let's get it started. So we taped the Raquel Pennington, the last 5 or 6 fights there, and we also taped the Mayra Beuno Silva side. Now we're pulling up our stats, and we're going to put it all together. We're going to come up with the best bets and get you to the window there. So starting out with the Raquel Pennington, she is 12-5 in the UFC. 25% of her wins have been by submission. 75% of her wins have been decision. She has 0 wins by TKO or KO in the UFC, which is a little bit weird because I do consider Raquel Pennington more of a striker than anything, but she tends to go to decision. In her losses here, 0 losses by submission, worth noting, but 80% of her losses have been by decision. On the Beuno Silva side, she also has 0 wins by KO. So probably going to see some inflated lines and not KO. But 83% of Silva's wins have been by submission. 17% of her wins only by decision. So more of a finisher by submission. In terms of her losses, she has 2 UFC losses, both of them coming by decision, so 100% by decision. So let's get into the Raquel Pennington offensive striking. We talked about Raquel Pennington being mostly a striker. She is. 62% of her strikes comes from a distance. 32% of her strikes landed have come from the clinch, and only 6% from the ground. In terms of target, where she goes to strike, 73% of her targets landed are towards the head, 20% to the body, and only 7% to the legs. Not a big leg kicker, more of a striker, boxer, and likes knees in the clinch. In terms of striking accuracy, only 39% head strike accuracy, 82 body strike accuracy, not bad, and 88% leg accuracy. Again, not a big leg kicker, but when she does throw, she does land. And then what's interesting here is the average strikes thrown by round here. So she starts a little bit slow in round 1, averaging 33 strikes thrown in round 1. But then rounds 2 and 3, she pops up to 45 and 42 strikes in rounds 2 and 3. And then rounds 4 and 5, a little bit skewed because, again, those depend on your 5-round fights. Raquel Pennington not on a ton of 5-round fight main events. So that's worth noting. Again, we talked about Raquel Pennington. Her striking comes mainly from the clinch here. So you can see here in our Fighting Stats breakdown, significant strike percentages, strikes thrown and landed. Raquel Pennington, in terms of knockdowns, let's go down the list, does not have 0. She has 0 knockdowns. In terms of her strikes in the clinch, again, we talked about the clinch. She has some big numbers in the clinch here. If you go down to the Marion Renault fight, if you go down to the Kinzad fight, Aspen Ladd fight, threw a decent number of strikes within the clinch. Also, obviously, threw in some distance strikes landed, but 0 strikes on the ground. Really only 2 strikes against Kinzad on the ground, 4 against Renault in round 1. on the ground, or sorry, round 2 there, and then 4 against Irina Dalna on the ground as well. So again, she's going to want to keep the fight standing. She'll get most of her strikes from the clinch or at a distance, and again, she's going to be attacking the head or the body with the knees, not a big leg kicker. So that's what we have in the striking data. Defensively striking for Raquel Pennington, 68% of the strikes that she eats are at a distance, 30% in the clinch, and only again 2% on the ground. So again, not a lot of time spent on the ground from Pennington. In terms of the strikes absorbed, 73% of the target is towards her head, and 18% to the body, and 8% to the leg. She does have a good defensive striking, so 28% defensive striking towards the head, 60% to the leg, and to the body, and then 72% to the leg. So decent head accuracy numbers that come out of that. And then strikes absorbed by round, a little bit similar in terms of her output, but she does eat 46, 45, and 40 strikes per round, respectively. And then again, the 4 and 5 really depends on the output there. So going back to the tape here, or what we did was we taped the Raquel Pennington side, and most of that, I wanted to go back to the Amanda Nunes fight. And so Amanda Nunes here, this was in 2018 here. We see that Amanda Nunes, orthodox versus orthodox, she threw 19 leg kicks, landed 11 of them. Raquel Pennington's lead leg in that fight was completely mangled. Raquel Pennington was lifting the leg every time she could to sort of stop the leg kicks from coming. And because Raquel Pennington's not really a grappler, she was sort of out of ideas. She was on one leg, eating leg kicks, not able to do much. So that was a one-sided beating. Worth noting, though, Raquel Pennington did go 5 rounds with Amanda Nunes, eventually getting finished in round 5. But I went back to that fight because that was really the strongest grappler that Raquel Pennington has fought. She hasn't fought a ton of grapplers, and so I was really curious to see what that takedowns, sort of looked like. If I go over here to the Raquel Pennington offensive, I'm just going to start at defensive grappling here. In terms of takedown attempts against, right? Aspen Ladd shot 3 takedowns in round 3. Again, that's Aspen Ladd, not huge. She got 2 of them in round 3. Macy Chasson shot 1 takedown in round 1, got it. 2 takedowns. Pennington threw 2 takedown attempts in round 1 and got 1. Things like that. So going back to the again, the Amanda Nunes one, she got 4 takedowns in that fight. A lot of control time on the ground there. So that, again, that's why we started back there. Amanda Nunes wasn't able to do much with the takedowns. We went back and watched it. She stood in sort of full guard for most of the time, half guard there. But again, wasn't able to do much. But again, since the Amanda Nunes, she fought Jermaine Durandamy, not a grappler. Irina Dalna, mostly a boxer, not a grappler. Holly Holm, mostly a kickboxer, not a grappler. Marion Renault, again, not a grappler. Penny Kinzad, not a grappler. Macy Chasson, striker, not a grappler. Aspen Ladd, no longer in the UFC, not a grappler. Caitlin Vieira didn't even shoot a takedown, not a grappler. So the strength of schedule for Raquel Pennington, I know she's won. She's on a little bit of a run, but she hasn't really fought a real grappler. And so I thought because of the submission wins from Beuno Silva that we would have seen more grappling from Beuno Silva. But if we go over to the numbers for Beuno Silva in terms of offensive grappling, here we see here in the most recent fight against Holly Holm, again, most of the kickboxer, did not attempt a single takedown. Against Lena Landsberg, she attempted 2 in round 1, only got 1 of them, and then got another one in round 2. Didn't shoot anything against Stephanie Egger. Wu Yanan, only 1 takedown attempted, did not get it one there. Against Manon Ferreira, another kickboxer, didn't even attempt a takedown. Against Montana De La Rosa, didn't attempt a takedown either. So not a huge offensive grappler from Silva. Actually, in her UFC career, she has 4 takedown attempts she's attempted 4 takedowns. She's only gotten 2. So that's a big discrepancy for a fighter that wins 83% of her fights by submission, and only really successfully landing 2 takedowns. Kind of weird. And I think it shows up in the submission attempts in that Mayra Beuno Silva, her submissions include arm bars, they include knee bars. So she's a little bit busier, and she includes front chokes, so ninja chokes. So Holly Holm was looking for a takedown, looking to grapple. She put her head down, and then Beuno Silva locked in front choke, ninja choke, able to choke her out there. Again, the phantom armbar tap, the knee bar, Lena Landsberg. So Weird to see, but again, Mayra Bueno Silva is going to want to keep the fight standing, whereas I think she has an edge on the ground. So let's get into sort of how I see the fight going and taking place. Both fighters are orthodox fighters, so they're going to both open up orthodox. We saw Mayra Bueno Silva, anytime she fights an orthodox fight, especially recently, she likes to throw the outside low kick. So I think she's going to throw the outside low kick within the first 30 seconds. Orthodox versus orthodox. Raquel Pennington does not change stances. She's going to be an orthodox almost all of the fight. So Silva's going to start to throw these outside low kicks. She doesn't put a ton of power. I think she throws the leg kick with more of her heel than her shin. The power and the damage comes from more of the shin on the calf. Whereas Bueno Silva does throw it, but she throws it with the heel, and it's a weird look, but she will throw it. We saw Raquel Pennington sort of eat that damage from Amanda Nunes, so we saw her go 5 rounds, taking some big leg kicks from Amanda Nunes. I'm not too concerned with the leg kicks, but it is a path to victory for Silva is working those leg kicks. Now, when she switches to southpaw, now all of a sudden that body kick, she's going to be southpaw against Raquel Pennington's orthodox. She's going to start to throw that left kick towards the body. It's going to be body kicks with the left leg in southpaw. She doesn't really stand in southpaw too much, doesn't throw a lot of strikes in southpaw, but she will switch just to throw the body kick. Otherwise, she'll go back to orthodox and throw the leg kicks. Striking wise, Bueno Silva is not really a volume striker. She's more of a power puncher. I call her a plotter. She comes forward. She likes to keep the high guard. She'll take some big shots on the guard, and then she'll come forward and stuff, right? If you go back and watch the Manon Fiorot fight, very frustrating to watch, especially if you had some money on her. Anytime Manon Fiorot blitzes forward with her 1-2-3, Bueno Silva just covers, moves back, and takes a shot, and then comes forward, says, no, that didn't hurt, and comes forward. You can sort of pin Silva down by not just continuing to throw constant volume. And so what she'll do is she'll cover up and then she'll start coming forward. It's not like she's looking to counter. She's not looking to look like she's level changes. As soon as you come forward and strike, she's going to put her arms up. She's going to block it with her high guard. It's probably not going to go through, but she's not going to throw any offense. And that's the big difference, is that she will lose minutes to volume strikers. Like Manon Fiorot, even against Wu Yanan, against Holly Holm, she's losing minutes because she's not throwing. So she's more of a looking for bigger shots. She's looking for these like hooking shots. And if she doesn't get it, I think she's losing minutes. So if it gets to the clinch, Mayra Bueno Silva likes to throw clinch. She likes to throw the knees in the clinch, but Raquel Pennington actually has a very good clinch as well. She uses a nice tight clinch. She comes in close and she throws some clinches she throws some knees to the body. Remember, Raquel Pennington, I think, has a couple of fights at 145. She's dropped down to 135. Mayra Bueno Silva used to fight at 125 and moved up to 135. So I believe that Raquel Pennington will probably be a little bit stronger in the clinch. I think that might be a big difference maker in this fight. The other thing I wanted to note was that both fighters, both Silva and Pennington, have a tendency, once they get into the clinch, they're looking for the overhook and they're looking to control the fighter. The only problem is that both of them allow themselves to be pushed up against the cage and losing minutes there. Against the Holly Holm fight and Mayra Bueno Silva, Holly Holm, again, not a grappler, but she does clinch. She pushes Silva up against the cage. She keeps her there for a minute. Silva's not looking to pummel under. She's not looking to circle off. She was really only looking to like rabbit strike, giving up the minutes up against the cage. Holly Holm breaks off, lets her off the hook, and then pushes up against the cage as well. So against somebody like Raquel Pennington that also likes to clinch, I can see Raquel Pennington winning minutes on the fence, on the cage, being a pretty boring fight, but it's going to be a lot of clinch work, a lot of stuff against the fence. And I think Raquel Pennington's probably going to win the clinch battle. If it stays standing, I think Raquel Pennington's going to have a lot more volume on the feet, and I think she could win the distance striking battle as well. The difference comes in that, again, Bueno Silva is going to be throwing power punches, and she's going to be looking for the big shots. But Raquel Pennington never landed a knockdown. She's also never been knocked down. She's fought Amanda Nunes. She's fought these but she's fought these strikers. We talked about not grapplers, mostly strikers, but she's never been knocked down. She can take a punch. So against Mayra Bueno Silva is not really a heavy-handed striker. I don't think Raquel Pennington is going to get knocked out or knocked down much. And Silva's more reliant on these big moments in the striking to win these minutes. Like she dropped Wu Yanan in round one and ended up winning that round because she dropped her. And then in round two, as Wu was like on top, so she won. She lost the round based on top control. I think for Mayra Bueno Silva to win minutes in this fight, it's going to have to be from the grappling, and she's going to have to proactively look to grapple. And the problem is she hasn't done so. In any of the UFC tape, again, only 4 takedown attempts, 2 of them have been successful. So can she get Raquel Pennington down to the ground, and can she stay on top and continue to keep top control? I just don't see it. And Mayra Bueno Silva, a lot of the wins by submission, again, she is getting these wins by submission. She's savvy off her back. But Raquel Pennington's not a submission grappler, not even looking for a takedown. I don't think Raquel Pennington will even shoot for a takedown. She has mixed in the takedowns here and there. But let's pull it up here. Raquel Pennington, takedowns, 55 attempts for takedowns, 15 of them have been successful. She hasn't had a successful takedown since round 2 against Penane Kanzad, and then before that was round 3 against Marianne Renault. I doubt she looks for a takedown in this fight. Why would she? She doesn't need to. She can keep the fight standing, and I think Mayra Bueno Silva will also want to keep the fight standing. If it goes down to the ground, obviously I favor Mayra Bueno Silva to win on the ground, or maybe even find a submission. But I don't think that there's going to be a lot of ground time. We saw in the strikes, we saw in the graphs here, not a lot of ground time, not a lot of strikes coming from the ground there. So I'm going to say, the fight probably stays standing. A lot of the fight will take place in the clinch. I just prefer Raquel Pennington in the clinch here. I prefer a little bit busier on the feet as well. One thing I forgot to talk about here was the striking, the cardio concerns. I have some cardio concerns against for Mayra Bueno Silva. Okay, and we saw Raquel Pennington again pick up from round 1 to round 2, round 3, a little bit busier in rounds 2 and 3. Whereas Mayra Bueno Silva actually drops in round 2. So she starts out strong at 32, and then she drops in round 2, and then kind of comes forward in round 3, throwing more strikes in round 3. So anytime we've seen Bueno Silva in the 3rd round, I think she's pretty much tired. She's getting through it. She's working through it. Raquel Pennington a little bit more. She has more 5-round experience. I don't think Mayra Bueno Silva has ever gone past 3 rounds. So I think there's an X factor here for Raquel Pennington. If it does go that far, and Raquel Pennington never getting knocked down, I think there's a good chance of it going into rounds 4 and 5, and then Raquel Pennington really just taking over. And they call her Rocky for a reason, Raquel Pennington. And that's not because it's Raquel Rocky, it's pretty close. It's because she can take some mad damage. She can take some big damage, and she continues to come forward. Rounds 4 and 5 are going to be tough for Silva. If you can't put out Rocky in the first 2-3 rounds, and again, it's probably going to have to be by submission, then it's going to be Raquel Pennington really taking over in those later rounds. I'm going to be really looking at those late round pops for Raquel Pennington, early maybe submission wins for Silva. But I think that's how the fight is going to play out. We'll get you some numbers here. I'm going to see if I can put some numbers to paper here. Hold on. All right. So I pulled up my handy dandy worksheet here. We have Raquel Pennington on the blue side. We have Mayra Bueno Silva here on the right side. We're going to go through the numbers. We're going to actually pick where the props should be. Again, the odds aren't out yet. This fight happens in January, but I'll give you where my lines, where I think they should open up, and where the sort of best value is, so you can decide what best bets are there. So we're going to start on the Pennington side. Win by TKO. Again, she has 0 wins by TKO. Okay, so I'm going to throw that out right away. Mayra Bueno Silva also has 0 wins by TKO. The difference is that Pennington has 0 losses by TKO. She's never been knocked down. She doesn't have any losses by TKO. The difference is that Silva hasn't gone 5 rounds. So I think if Pennington wins by TKO, it's going to have to be pretty late. It's going to probably be rounds 4 and 5. Honestly, we might get some juicy lines. So again, only you guys are going to get access to it. I'm probably going to be all over Pennington by KO in round 4 and 5, and I think we're going to get astronomical numbers. Neither of these fighters have ever won by KO, but I think it's coming. And Silva never being in a 5-round fight, I think it's live. So right now, for the sake of argument, we're just going to put in 10% because, again, I don't think it happens in the first 3 rounds. I think if it happens, it's going to be rounds 4 and 5. Raquel Pennington to win by submission, probably 0%. I'm not even going to give it a number because Raquel Pennington is not going to look for the takedown. If it does get there, I don't really think she's going to submit Beuno Silva. Now, to win by decision, I do think that there's a very good chance of it going to decision. Raquel Pennington, again, 80% of her wins have been by decision, so I think that's most of her win equity. I'm going to say the ability to win 4 and 5, the ability to win in the clinch, the ability to have more distance striking, I think she's a favorite to win by decision. I'm going to start it out at 35%. We'll start it there, and we'll see if we need to add to it there. Okay, moving on to the Silva side. Mayra Beuno Silva by TKO. I think it's live. She throws with power, but I think it's going to have to be in the first 2 rounds. And Raquel Pennington's never been knocked out. She's faced a lot better strikers than Mayra Beuno Silva, so I can't rate it more than 10% either. I don't think Beuno Silva has a big chance of winning by TKO, especially against Raquel Pennington. So I'm going to leave it at 10%. Probably a little bit too high, but you always have to put something in there. Now, to win by submission, I think it's probably most of her win equity. Again, it comes pretty early, but it's like if Raquel doesn't engage in the grappling and Silva doesn't shoot for takedowns, how's the submission going to get there? How is she's going to have to jump guillotine maybe, roll for a knee bar maybe. I guess that's possible. So I'm not going to rule it out. I'm going to leave it at 25%. We'll leave it there. I think that's a little bit too high, but let's keep on going. So win by decision, Mayra Beuno Silva winning by decision. She doesn't have a ton of decision wins. I think we said it was around 18%. Her fights win by decision. Her losses though come from decision. So I think she loses a lot of minutes. I think she loses them in the clinch. I think she loses them even on the ground. She's not a big minute winner, so she needs big moments to win by decision. She's going to need multiple knockdowns or just control, or maybe it's the leg kicks. Beuno Silva lands these leg kicks all day, and then Raquel Pennington's on one leg, can't do anything for 5 rounds, and she wins a decision. So I'm not ruling it out. I just don't think it's as high as Raquel Pennington. I'm going to say about 15%. Maybe 20%. Okay. So 45-50, I'm short 5%. So now it's deciding on where that extra 5 goes into. Raquel Pennington by TKO, not willing to put it there. Raquel Pennington to win by sub, not going to put it there either. It's either Raquel Pennington to win by decision, moving it up from 35% to 40%, or yeah, I think that's right. I'm not going to add to the sub because the sub doesn't make sense. I think 25% is a little bit too high for the sub as well. And then I'm not going to add it to the decision. So I think Raquel Pennington can win a decision 40% of the time. That sounds about right. Win by decision. You know what? I'm going to change Beuno Silva. 1 and 4 doesn't sound right. I'm going to move that 20%. Win by decision, 20% there. Even that doesn't sound right. 1 in 5 times. I guess we'll leave it. Okay. So to recap, 10% chance for Raquel Pennington to win by KO, 0% chance for Raquel Pennington to win by submission, 40% chance to win by decision. That sounds about right. Mayra Beuno Silva to win by TKO, also 10% to win by submission, 20%. I think that's right. I don't think you can go lower than that just based on her track record. And then winning by decision, you got to give it something. I left it at 20%. So add them all up, you get 50-50. I think it's going to be a 50-50 fight, sort of a coin flip. I kind of lean the Raquel Pennington side, but if anything, it's going to be 55-45. If you add up the percentages there, Raquel Pennington to win inside the distance, I only have 10%, so it's going to be plus 900 or better. Raquel Pennington money line, again, just to go back, either side, I think plus 100 better is good, so any kind of dog money is not bad. Goes to decision, not goes to decision. So not going to decision is 40% plus 150. Goes to decision is 60% or minus 150. I think it's going to be juiced to that side, to goes to decision side. Again, neither fighter winning by TKO. It's going to probably juice that side. So if you like the inside the distance line, I think you can probably wait. A lot of people are probably going to take it to go to decision. I might actually sprinkle split decision sort of thing. I could see it being split decision sort of thing. So none of these other lines are out yet, but we have inside the distance only, decision win only, sub only lines for your sort of viewing pleasure there. Again, 0% wins by submission. So when those odds come out, I'll probably be looking again. The specific TKO prop, I'm gonna get greedy. I'm not gonna take plus 900. It'll probably come up around there, but I'll be looking for those Pennington rounds 4-5 KO, 3-4-5 KO to play it safe, and then Silva rounds 1-2 by submission. But otherwise, Pennington by decision, not a bad look. To be honest, I usually do these breakdowns before I even look at the odds, so I'm curious to see what the odds are. I'm gonna pull up fight odds. Again, this is the next pay-per-view fight, so close this one. Strickland DuPlessis, Raquel Pennington, plus 140, plus 144. So the best line available, plus 144. Best line for Silva, minus 160. So based on those numbers, based on our worksheet, it looks like I might have a Pennington side. So if I put in 140 here, current odds of plus 140, it's the Kelly criterion. The 8th Kelly criterion is telling us to put 1.8 units down on Raquel Pennington money line. I may end up doing that. I will let you know if I do it. But that's the breakdown for now. I think we've covered everything. I kind of like the Pennington side. Again, I think it's 50-50. The X factor here, if you think about it, is Silva just got popped for performance-enhancing drugs. She said it was something to do with her ADHD. They always say it's something, right? But she got popped. She definitely looked a lot better in the Holly Holm fight than she had previously. I'm not going to say anything about what that was or whatever, but I will say she got popped for something in the Holly Holm fight. That fight went to no contest. So does she look completely different, or will she look the same as the Holly Holm fight? I don't know. It's tale of two tapes with Beuno Silva, right? She beat a couple of 40-year-old women. She beat 1-5 in the UFC in Wu Yanan. Stephanie Egger, not the greatest. So the strength of schedule for both guys, not the greatest. So really toss up with you get. I wouldn't mind passing on it, but I think the value, and because I'm probably going to go to the event, I'll probably end up on the Raquel Pennington side. Just really curious to see where these odds open up, but that's my breakdown. That's how I think it's going to go. I know I went into a lot of detail, so I appreciate you listening to it. If you like that detail and you like this amount of stats, that's why you're subscribed to Patreon, and that's why you're going to get all of our breakdowns here. But again, join us on patreon.com/FightingStats. We post all of our breakdowns and best bets there. We get access to all of these stats that we provide here, and you can make your own educated guess. We've watched all the tapes, so go back and watch it with us. Come to your own decision, see if it lines up with me. Let me know in the comments below what you think, what I did wrong, what I didn't consider. But that's it. My name is Art C. Again, thank you for watching. This is Fighting Stats. I hope you enjoyed the show. Okay, guys, well, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe. You'll get notified anytime we put out new content. Again, my name is Art C. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Electrocute. This is Fighting Stats, the ultimate source for exclusive and in-depth MMA statistics and best bets. We'll see you guys at the window.